The single audit side, obviously single audits only come into play if you're a nonprofit that's receiving that you're getting federal funds and you expend 750 or more federal funds during your fiscal year. So that's the key, right? Once you start accepting government money from the feds or pass through, it typically has what they call a CFDA number on it. And once you hit above 750,000 of expenditures, then you trip into single audit land. And there's quite a few changes impacting single audits. You'll see this flow chart here. We had the American Rescue Plan Act in 21. We had the supplements in August. Then there was the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and then quite a few addendums, and then the supplemental, basically single audit packets that were issued. So a lot of changes coming through the single audit side of things. You'll see a lot of money being spent from the government on these new funds. So the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, CSLFRF, that is one of the biggest one, way over almost $350 billion spent. And as you can see here, looking through capital projects, emergency rental, provider relief, education stabilization, there's a lot more entities now tripping the single audit thresholds. Here's some new CFDA numbers that came out with the supplements. So if you're a nonprofit that typically, say you're a women's shelter and you're working in this space, family violence prevention and services 93.671, that would be a new CFDA. So it's always good to see when you're getting these grants or funding from the government, if there's any CFDA numbers attached to them, because that triggers additional compliance and requirements. Because of the onslaught of new entities tripping the single audit threshold, they did come out with what they would consider a alternative compliance examination, that if you had one CFDA number and you met these parameters, then you can get a compliance examination instead of a full-blown single audit. And that will cut down on quite a few of the compliance requirements associated with the compliance matrix, and it would basically tailor and hone in on the A and B activities allowed and unallowed, and some of the cost principles, as that would be a lot less time consuming. Quick reminder here, identify the COVID-19 funding on the CFA. If you see any evidence of the CFDA number that notates or discusses COVID-19, that has to be broken out separate on the data collection form and the CFA. It's required. If it's not identified and put into the Federal Audit Clearinghouse the fact correctly, you can reach and get rejections on that. Some fact changes. The Federal Audit Clearinghouse has changes their domain for uploading the single audit reports. They're moving from Census to GSA, which is another service. I looked at the website, it looks very similar. I couldn't even tell differences, but everything seems to be working and operating fine. But you might have to update your hyperlink to get to the right location. Another thing to watch out for on the state side is often states that pass through federal funds require additional compliance. Often they require that the confirmation letter that you receive from the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, they recommend that be sent to them to their website, and then that you fill out various checklists and a copy of your data collection form that you use to fill out the Federal Audit Clearinghouse form. Reminder of when the due date is: 30 days after the receipt of the auditor's report or 9 months after the end of the audit period. So just a quick reminder there for those that are still on the low risk auditee. That's one of the ways you stay a low risk auditee, is make sure you hit those deadlines. And last part here, I'll talk about some of the common schedule of expenditures of federal awards CFA errors that we've seen. Basically one of the big ones is missing the CFDA numbers or having an incorrect one. Often you can't just take last year, same as last year, as precedents. They'll often change up CFDA numbers, the federal government. There might be a slight change with one integer, and that could trip a different cluster. So watch out for that. Make sure that the names of the pass-through entities are listed. The grant ID numbers are listed. If you don't have any of the contract numbers, make sure you reach it back out to those pass-through entities. You know, they should give you the numbers for the pass-through and the grant IDs, so they're easier to be tracked on their side as well. Often too, the notes to CFA, there could be some issues there with missing some notes and some totals. But the big key here is making sure that your CFA, when you prepare it, is reconciled to the statement of activities. It's reconciled to the expenditures when they occurred, and it's tied into your GL so you can support it. Any major program obviously has to be tested, and there's various parameters. So that's a quick and high-flying overview of some of the common CFA errors we see. Next